I also, there's part of me that has the tendency of this, wow, it's amazing to be with one for my life and then get old. And it touches some deep, place in our hearts. Yet I started to put question marks and saying, maybe it can be possible to do both. Maybe we can be with one primary partner if that's what we want. If we want it's like long-term intimacy and depth, because it comes some depth and it has many benefits. But at the same time, maybe we want to also be free to express many of our other needs. Not just the sexual one, by the way. Many think it's like open relating is about, I don't know, some kind of drive for sex only. But no, it's much more broader than that. It's what comes through the sexual connection. Because if there is some sensual or intimate or sexual connection, I can also fulfill my other human needs for communication, for intimacy, for intellectual connection, for spiritual connection.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Tomer. How are you, Tomer?
Awesome.
Very nice. So, Tomer is an expert of relationships, and he helps singles and couples have more successful and harmonious relationships.
True.
Wow, this is a very interesting subject. I think one of the most interesting subjects for most people, because indeed relationships are so important, right?
And so hard.
And so hard. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what is your journey in life?
I was born 42 years ago in Ukraine, and I spent there my first 10 years. Very traumatic childhood, because it was in the communism days, and we were very poor. Like stood up for hours in lines for bread and butter. And I was a single child. My parents got divorced when I was 3. So I grew up basically with my mother most of the time. And I had asthma, and I was always like a sick boy, and very very traumatized childhood. And then I moved to Israel when I was 10.
Okay.
That was a little bit happier, even though still hard, the immigration, but I fell in love with the Israeli, directness, authenticity, warmness of the people versus the cold Russian. But it was hard to blend in socially, so I wasn't so popular because I was Russian. And that also created a lot of pain of rejection and being lonely, not enough friends during school and high school. And then I wasn't so popular with the ladies in high school. Very frustrating, very painful. Hormones, adolescence, but I wasn't confident enough. I didn't know, I was shy, I didn't know nobody taught me. So it was very, very painful because I love women and I wanted to connect so much, but I had here and there, but not enough as I wanted. So I decided around university time that I'm gonna teach myself basically. I fell in love in sociology and anthropology. I started to learn that in high school, university. And then I decided that I really want to understand how to crack this code of being like popular with women and receiving more yes than a no, and choosing versus being chosen. And I started to interview hundreds of men and women. I would sit like we are interviewed, informal, but I would grab a cup of coffee for an hour and I would ask all the questions about all the details of how, what did you do? What did you tell her? How did you look at her? When did you kiss her? How did you deal with rejection? Hundreds of questions, and then I started to see, and from women as well, like why this guy and not this guy? What is attractive? So after a few years, I saw that I'm getting much better with connecting to women because I started to realize that there are patterns. So there's a kind of almost like a language, and there's a full psychology behind. So it's not just either you're natural or you're not, but it's a lot of inner psychology and understanding the opposite sex.
For sure. I mean, it's a as I also think is one of the most fascinating subjects, you know, relationships and women, even to me, like very mysterious people.
Yeah.
You know, for many years, it took me a long while as well to, you know, fall in love and have a proper long-term relationship, etc. It wasn't so natural or so easy either. But I really appreciate your effort of, you know, this thing, of course, was of importance to you, and you decided to spend quite a lot of time and effort trying to understand relationships and what trigger people, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, what triggers people and what kind of pulls our back and what opens our heart and connects. Yeah, so all the dynamic of flirting, of dating, of attracting, of and then intimacy, sexuality, and you know, it's a whole science basically. And then I started teaching it professionally. I made it my profession. But before that, I had a career in the, I was studying MBA, and then I went into this corporate job, you know, like I received a car and a phone, cell phone, and salary, and I was, in the corporate, but I felt like I'm just making money for being good at marketing, sales, but I felt like my soul wasn't full from doing something meaningful, and then I quit everything, and it was about when I was 27 years old, and then for about 6 months, I disconnected from all the metrics. I was like, left my girlfriend, left my house, you know, was sleeping over at friends' houses. I was like nomad, and then I stopped my MBA in the middle. Like I dropped everything, and then I was in a journey of realizing what I want to do, like for life, that it's going to be meaningful and that I'm going to be fully passionate about it. That's how I became to what I am today. And I started teaching. At first, I was teaching men for the first 5 years how to relate to women. Many men, you know, have frustrations in the first stages, how to approach, how to speak, dating. And then after 5 years, I started teaching women as well, because women came and said, we also want to learn, because we also have a hard time with you guys men. We want to fall in love, relationship, but men are unpredictable, want just sex, etc., etc. So how do we get them into a relationship? Teach us. So then I started to teach women as well. And then slowly I started to teach couples. It was just, you know, my career evolution naturally became, I kind of felt I already understand how to teach men and then how to teach women. Then I want to work with couples, and also it was for my own personal challenge, because if at first my challenge was more into the, you know, the first stages of a relationship, the beginning or first few months, then it became the long distance. Like, what do I do after the honeymoon phase is over, after a year and a half, year and a half, and then struggle, conflicts, moving in together, big life decisions, you know, whether to get married, children, and then the inner child wounds come up inside the depth of the pain, and so I started learning it and going therapy myself, and of course teaching that to couples as well.
Well, it's a whole journey indeed, and I'm sure it never ends, because I suppose the science and art of a relationship is not like physics or mathematics. Of course, there are some patterns, some traits, some structures that can be analyzed, and you probably cover them very, very well. And then every person is unique, with unique predispositions, a history in life, a specific nervous system. You know, it really fascinates me, even just the basic science of attraction. Why am I attracted maybe to a certain lady and not another one, when, you know, they're both maybe lovely, they're both intelligent, they're both charming, but I have a strong predisposition to like one over the other. Yeah. That's fascinating to me, right? Yeah. But that's what happens.
It's because we're attracting the familiar. Familiarity is stronger than sexiness or familiar. Yeah, if your inner child recognizes that she's familiar to your parents, then
Okay, and what's also fascinating, particularly since I've been living in Kopenhagen, is to look at the diversity of relationship models available these days.
Yeah.
Of course, coming from more of a Christian, probably a Jewish tradition, you know, we tend to be brought up with the idea of having one partner, getting married, having children, and staying monogamous all your life. That's sort of, you know, the conventional way of looking at the relationships. But I'm very aware that this traditional model, although it's very lovely and very romantic, etc., there's movies and literature reinforcing it many times. It's also kind of failing a little bit, particularly if you see the divorce rates in the West, or even the challenges that people have in long-term relationships. And here, of course, on the island, you have the open relationships. You have some people trying the polyamory, which seems very challenging to me, and anything in between. I mean, do you tend to work with people that want to have monogamous relationships, or how does it work?
So I'm working with both, with all couples, not just the monogamous one, but also couples that are in an open relationship or want to open their relationship. And I've experienced in the last decade, personally for myself, these types of relationships where that's me and my partner, we were meeting other people, seeing other people, and gently, not full on polyamory, not full on having another partner for a long period of time, but we had maybe for a month or 2 months another partner, and either me or her, and it was kind of ongoing. Yeah, so we had a flavor and meaningful taste with a few partners. I had that, I'm on this. So I'm on this journey. It's a roller coaster, but the reason it touched me in the first place because I felt like it's more suitable to my character. And I believe to many other people, not everyone's, but to many other people. So let's say if the majority lives in monogamous relationship, I think this model doesn't fit to the majority of people. It may fit some of them, but not to all of them.
For sure.
And that's why you mentioned divorce rate, but there's also cheating rate are very, very high. Basically, cheating is open relating, but without consent. It's the same, but with a not non-ethically done, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in lying because then it ruins the foundation of healthy relationship, which is trust and safety and feeling safe and trust. It's like the basic. If you can't trust that your partner shall tell you the truth. So I believe in radical honesty of expressing fully our needs and our shadows and our desires, even if they're challenging to contain for a partner, because our partner also has a conditioning of this, all the Hollywood films, the one, soulmate, etc. It's a beautiful idea. There's part of me that has the tendency of this, wow, it's amazing to be with the one for my life and then get old. And it touches some deep, place in our hearts. Yet I started to put question marks and saying, maybe it can be possible to do both. Maybe we can be with the one primary partner if that's what we want. If we want that's like long-term intimacy and depth, because it comes some depth and it has many benefits. But at the same time, maybe we want to also be free to express many of our other needs, not just the sexual one, by the way. Many think it's like open relating is about, some kind of drive for sex only. But no, it's much more broader than that. It's what comes through the sexual connection, because if there is some sensual or intimate or sexual connection, I can also fulfill my other human needs for communication, for intimacy, for intellectual connection, for spiritual connection with a person that without this opening the sexual part, it's not going to be the same. It's like, you can have a intellectual connection with your friend, if you're in a monogamous relate, like with a friend, a male friend. But if you have also a sexual intimate connection, then it adds some layer of depth and that cannot be fulfilled without it. So, because I hear many people say, but of course all my needs cannot be met with one partner, but then I have friends, I have family, so with them I'm doing the rest of the stuff. But sometimes our we have this feature called novelty seeking. And some of us very high on novelty seeking or medium on novelty seeking, and those people, they need the change, the new flavor, the new restaurant, the new place, the new house, they need just the change, and it makes them feel more alive. I'm very high on that. So for me, it's not about you know, necessarily escaping the intimacy of the primary relationship, but it's more into just like having a different flavor, and then it gives so much, fills up so much, and then I can continue with my primary partner, like same way, deepening the same. So it's not necessarily like either or. Some people say, wow, you might fall in love with someone new. Of course, it's a possibility to fall in love and then switch partner, and you know, it's always possible. But actually, if the relationship is very healthy, usually people don't leave. If it's healthy and stable, people don't leave. They enjoy intimacy with others, and then they work on making their base, let's say home relationship, better. And then why would you leave if you have the full freedom also to intimately connect to others? So basically, you have kind of almost everything.
Tomer, you mentioned that indeed cheating is possibly the most common polyamory or open relationship style, and you say it's not ethical. I was reading on the internet that about 50% of people cheat, so it's a huge thing, right? And you say the best would be indeed to be able to be fully honest with your partner and say, I have a need for intimacy with other people too. And in an ideal scenario, the partner would say, I understand, I feel you, that's okay. Very often it doesn't happen that way though. What happens if you have a partner that just only wants monogamy and you have instead a strong desire or need for intimacy with more people? It's either or, so you make the sacrifice and stick to your partner the way you are, or you leave your partner. There's no other choice.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what happens. I believe in maybe sacrifice, but for short term, not for long terms. Because in long term, what it creates, if let's say I gave up on my, and it's a huge desire, huge of importance to me, and I gave up on that, basically I pleased you, and I shut down. It's like cutting myself a leg. So it affects my well-being. And then what happens is it starts to take off the well-being of our relationship, because on the one hand I gained us, but on the other hand I took something from myself and I wasn't truthful to myself, and then it creates resentment and anger, and slowly with time it starts to create. Rarely it's like, oh, okay, so I'm just gonna sacrifice and all good, I forgot about it, you know. No, it's a meaningful thing, that there is a reason why it comes up, as in I have this desire for others. There are many reasons that it comes from, which every person must understand themselves. And you know, it's important, where was it from the dark place with the shadow, with the wound of intimacy, or simply from a pure love heart, like you want to just love more, like you want to have 3 children and you love all of them. It's not either or. So I just want to love, my heart has no limits. So I want to love a few partners. It's possible, you know, it feels great. So why not? And then, yeah, and then many people break up. But still, I believe breakup is not necessarily a failure. Because if they're staying together, and again, they kind of suffer because one gave up meaningful. So which kind of, it cannot really thrive. It's like always there's this thing, and it's like you lose your power, you lose your freedom.
Yeah, because I don't know if there is a perfect solution. I mean, because I was watching a YouTube channel of Professor Sapolsky from Stanford University. He's
this old guy?
Yeah, he's a behavioral biologist, and he was looking at mating behaviors of monkeys and different animals, and you know, he says the baboons versus the chimps, very different. Yeah, but also he was arguing that human beings are not really monogamous by nature and are not really polyamorous by nature either. So depending, as you said, on the predisposition of the individual, but we are somewhere in between.
Yeah.
So it's very hard from a natural perspective to have one type of relationship and apply to everybody.
Exactly.
And that's why we see in the world real life situations of divorce, cheating, and all sort of drama happening in relationships,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So what is, in this context, monogamish?
So monogamish is one of the my favorite models that I experimented a few times myself. It means that we are mostly monogamous, or majority of the time, because we need the security, safety, stability. We want to maybe live together. We like this concept of and we want to be most of the time with one partner. It's financially, sometimes it's better than living apart.
For the children.
For the children, if we have children, exactly. So and maybe it's too hectic and crazy for us to have a few partners that nobody is the primary, and then it's like it feels cold. Maybe it feels like being single with a few lovers, and maybe we are. No, maybe we don't. Maybe we grew up emotionally already, and we kind of. Usually it happens, when we pass 30s or 35 or 40, and then we feel like this. Okay, I've done with the being single, and I need my one, but I also need a flavor of others here and there, once in a while. So monogamish is either talking about the desires and fantasy, but not necessarily doing them. That's one option. So it doesn't necessarily mean we play with others, but it's just the ability to say, I have the desire, I fantasize, I dream about other people, which is very natural. We dream sometimes about.
I think everybody does,
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
Maybe I'm even self-pleasuring with sometimes here and there thinking of someone else, because it's very natural.
Well, everybody cannot doing, yeah. Not everybody, because I cannot talk for everybody.
Yeah.
At least all my friends.
But some people, like the strict monogamy is it's like we forgot about the option of other people, and that's it, we don't talk. But many times it just comes up, you see a beautiful woman and she sees some man and meets in some social activity, and then he touches her and she looks, and then those desires and attractions arise. So monogamish is first talking about it. And accepting it that it's natural, that it doesn't mean that I don't love you, doesn't mean anything besides it's my non-monogamous nature that is there as well on top of my monogamous. It's like, here it is, it's both, and then I'm talking about it. And then another part of monogamish is maybe saying, let's interact with other people, but how can we make it very safe so it's not going to threat our primary relationship? So maybe we're going to play with another one or two people, but together. When we are together present, because it creates more safety. Because if it's me and you now in a threesome, it's more safe than if each one of us goes separately on a date. It feels sometimes more dangerous, because I don't know what's going on. Maybe you're... And here I can kind of have less sense of control over the situation. I feel, I see. And also, we don't necessarily go as free, full on, as if it was one-on-one. Let's say we had here another woman, and we are partners. I'm not necessarily going to allow myself everything, because I know that if I'll do everything, I might hurt you, so maybe I'm going to slow myself down. But then again, it's like I'm enjoying a little bit, not fully, but I'm settling with that, because I understand that what my priorities are, maybe your safety and your calmness of your nervous system is more important than my pleasure at 100, so I'm going to have a pleasure at 40, 50, it's going to be enough. And then monogamish can be, maybe we'll do separate dates, and then maybe we're just gonna, for example, most of the time that I practiced monogamish, it was, the rule was with no penetration, for me or for my partner, with others. So we didn't actually sleep, but we had, maybe nudity and other sexual activities, but no penetration, to protect us, because penetration creates more bonding, more emotional bonding, more chemistry, physical bonding, and more spiritual bonding, and then it can become more intense in terms of the connection, and the other connection with the third is more intense it may jeopardize and make us unstable, you know, and yeah, so it's something that we can say no penetration, as in it's already enough to play with others when you're in a relationship. It's a lot, you know, so it's not as, so again, monogamish is like, even within the monogamish, there are different levels of how, but again, always you have your primary partner and the others are secondary. You never go into a kind of polyamory, which is more of having multiple lovers, partners over time with emotions and full sexuality, penetration. That's more the polyamory. It's more advanced.
I hear you, you know, and the way you talk about it is very natural, and I really love the way you explain it, you know, because talking about ethics, you know, if my mom would listen to this conversation, she already would have many questions about it, you know. Again, you know, it really depends on your upbringing and where you're coming from. I really love Kopenhagen because it's such a laboratory and it's a very open-minded place and quite a modern place, you know, so we can absolutely take a very complex, very difficult problem, which is, you know, how to relate to each other and, you know, talk about it in a natural way, find practical solutions, create some sort of, you know, environment which is supportive for people diversity in this given subject indeed, and it's fine. Actually, it's very important that somebody like yourself, you know, dedicates so much time and love to the subject, because many people will think it's a taboo subject, it's not something they want to specialize in, whereas we need people that take the subject and develop it, and that's what you've been doing, right?
Yeah. When I've been teaching a monogamish course here in Kopenhagen.
Okay.
Yeah, this weekend another workshop is coming up, and yeah, it's beautiful. Yesterday I had a open intro night in our house. And 15 people came up, you know, like just to listen and express their curiosity and so many questions and like how do you do it? How does it work? How do you even share information after a meeting with the third? How do you say to a partner? Do you go into details? There's so much to learn, because basically we are like 16-year-old in that field, because we learned the one-on-one, but now there's the third, and it's like, whoa, it feels super new.
Tom, so there are many places in the world you could be, and you chose to come and live in Copenhagen. Is it because of the open-mindedness of the island, the culture, the laid-back culture, the tantra here, or why Copenhagen in particular?
All of the above. I have maybe, I don't know, 30 different reasons or boxes that Copenhagen ticks them for me. But mainly, when I came here 5 years ago the first time for 2 weeks, I literally fell in love in the first place in the nature. I felt at home in this nature. It's like amazing, astonishing nature. And I'm usually, I'm a city boy. So I'm not like a nature person in general, but this nature was just like, just opened my heart and I felt at home, and it was really strange. I'm like, wow, rarely I feel so much at home in nature. Usually I'm like, give me a city.
All right.
So it was a wow. And the community, because where I came from in Israel, I lived in Pardes Chana, which is about an hour from Tel Aviv, and it's you know, all the I say not just hippies, but also all the facilitators of workshops, all the therapists, all the musicians, all the artists, all the creators, all the open relationship pioneers, actors, so many creative and conscious people, and sacred sexuality community, many of them live there. So when I came for these 2 weeks, I suddenly felt it's the same. It's very much the same like there, and I felt at home because I already knew many people, because some people linked me to them, and then I felt, oh my God, I feel myself like the same. So it didn't feel like I'm in a different place abroad, Kopenhagen, you know, like I didn't even feel like a tourist. I felt like, wow, I felt like I belong here because my tribe is here, plus the non-Israelis, which is beautiful, right? On top of the...
More international, yeah.
Yeah, more international, exactly. So it was, and I traveled more than 25 countries, so I love internationals and languages in the world and different people of different flavors you know, so it felt just very natural to be around international community. And all the conscious events and all the also well-being, you know, the easefulness of the well-being that so many people are inspiring by doing, like you deal with healthy nutrition, and so many people, you know, do yoga and meditation and tantra and gym and workout, and everybody is like so healthy and vibrant and tan. So I felt like, wow, it's inspiring me to be healthy, because in the city, I was, you know, working, it was to go to a yoga or a gym, it was like a big project and so much effort. Felt like, and here it's just, like this is the lifestyle. Like most of the people, not everyone, but like most of the people, let's say here, it feels like most of the people, but a lot are, like taking care of their body, of their spirit, not just like, you know, making money, and that's it. But kind of living a balanced life, and also the level of stress very, very low, very relaxed.
Sure, compared to the cities, for sure.
Yeah. So this also like, wow, it's so easy and
lovely place indeed to experiment, to learn, and to be healthier, for sure. So I apologize for my voice. As I mentioned, you know, I had a ceremony and I was really expressing myself, so I lost my voice, but I feel very good. Anyway, Toma, thank you very much. You know, it's been a pleasure, and I wish we could talk more about the big subject of relationships. It's so fascinating. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, brother.